By the end of this video, you will see exactly how a single night of intense arguments saved Western civilization from being wiped off the map. We are breaking down the Battle of Salamis, a moment where brute force ran headfirst into pure genius. Now, you might think a massive military force always wins, but history shows us that strategy beats numbers every single time. I have spent years studying ancient military tactics, and the showdown at Salamis is the ultimate masterclass in high-stakes manipulation. Here is the situation. The Persian war machine had just smashed through the brave defenders at Thermopylae. They were marching straight for Athens, leaving nothing but ash in their wake. Over 100,000 Greek refugees and soldiers fled to the small island of Salamis. They were crowded, starving, and terrified. Even worse, the Greek leadership was tearing itself apart. The generals were bickering, the captains were mutinying, and the Peloponnesians wanted to abandon the island completely. Greece was on the brink of total surrender before the battle even started. Let's start with the man who was supposed to hold this chaotic mess together. His name was Eurybiades, the commander-in-chief of the Greek navy. Picture a rugged Spartan commoner dressed in a coarse woolen garment and a long crimson cloak. He wore a heavy bronze helmet and carried a wooden staff as a sign of his power. He was a fierce patriot, but he was a terrible manager. He had no deep insights and absolutely no idea how to handle his bickering allies. Think of it this way. The Spartans were masters of land warfare, not the sea. Eurybiades was an infantryman trying to run a massive fleet. To make matters worse, the island of Salamis was bursting at the seams. The population had instantly exploded from 10,000 to over 150,000 people. Food was running low, clean water was scarce, and everyone was exhausted from weeks of rowing and fighting. Now, why does this matter? Because the enemy was finally here. The Greeks looked across the water and watched the massive Persian army flood into the countryside. The smoke from the burning city of Athens filled the sky. Panic spread like wildfire. Eurybiades called an emergency council of war around September 23rd to decide their next move. But it gets worse. Most of the Greek generals did not want to fight at Salamis. They wanted to retreat westward to the Isthmus of Corinth, where the land army was building a wall. The Peloponnesian generals were thinking like defeatists. They did not want a base for victory. They wanted an easy getaway route. If they lost at Corinth, they could just walk home. If they lost at Salamis, they would be trapped and slaughtered. Right in the middle of this tense debate, a messenger ran into the room. He dropped a bombshell. The Persians had officially captured the Acropolis and set it on fire. The council exploded into pure chaos. Generals rushed out of the room, ordering their crews to hoist the sails and prepare to flee. The remaining leaders voted to abandon Salamis at dawn. It was a total panic. Here is the catch. One man refused to accept defeat. His name was Themistocles, the leader of the Athenian fleet. He knew that retreating to Corinth would be suicide. If the fleet broke up, every city-state would just row home to defend their own walls. The Greek alliance would die right then and there. Themistocles walked back to his ship in the dark, feeling completely defeated. But then an older politician named Mnesiophilus sought him out. Mnesiophilus gave him a brutal piece of advice. Go back to Eurybiades and force him to reopen the debate, or Greece is finished. That was all the spark Themistocles needed. He rushed over to the Spartan commander's flagship in the dead of night. He climbed the wooden ladder, sat down with Eurybiades under a canvas awning, and began to weave his web. Themistocles didn't just use logic, he used masterclass psychology. He knew the Spartans valued honor and hated looking like cowards. He painted a grim picture of what a retreat would look like. Eurybiades listened closely, realizing his own legacy was on the line. The Spartan commander agreed to call the generals back for a midnight meeting. But the other generals were furious to be dragged back into the room. Before Eurybiades could even speak, Themistocles started shouting out his arguments. Adamantus, the wealthy commander from Corinth, immediately cut him off with a vicious insult. He told Themistocles that at the public games, anyone who starts before the signal gets beaten with a stick. Themistocles didn't blink. He snapped back, saying that those who lag behind never win the victor's wreath. The tension in the room was boiling over. Eurybiades even raised his wooden walking stick, threatening to strike the Athenian leader. Themistocles looked him dead in the eye and said, "Strike, but listen." That blunt, fearless response worked. The Spartan lowered his stick and let him speak. Themistocles laid out his ultimate tactical trap. He explained that fighting the Persians on the wide-open sea near Corinth was a death sentence. The Persians had faster, lighter, and far more numerous ships that would easily surround them. But forcing the Persians to fight in the narrow straits of Salamis would change everything. In the tight waters, the enemy could not use their numbers. The heavy, powerful Athenian ships could smash them to pieces one by one. Fighting a naval battle in the Narrows is good for us, he argued, and in the open sea, it is good for them. Adamantus tried one last desperate attack. He told the council that Themistocles shouldn't even have a vote because Athens was burned to the ground. He called him a man without a country. This time, Themistocles lost his temper. He roared back that as long as Athens had 200 fully manned warships, they had the greatest city in Greece. No city could withstand their attack. Then he dropped his ultimate ultimatum on Eurybiades. He threatened that if the allies retreated, the entire Athenian fleet would pack up their families, sail away to Italy, and leave the rest of Greece to die. This massive gamble changed everything. Eurybiades knew that without the Athenian navy, the Persian fleet would crush them instantly. The Spartan commander used his ultimate authority and completely overturned the previous vote. They would stay, and they would fight at Salamis. As the sun began to rise on September 24th, the exhausted generals walked out of the meeting. Just then, a powerful earthquake shook the land and the sea. The Greeks took it as a booming sign from the gods. They immediately fell to their knees, prayed to their ancient heroes, and prepared their ships for the most important naval battle the world had ever seen. The trap was officially set, but the actual battle was going to be an absolute bloodbath. To see exactly how these heavy Greek ships smashed the massive Persian Empire in the narrow straits, click on the video on your screen right now. We are diving straight into the terrifying tactical showdown that followed this historic midnight meeting.